September 1941, and the city of Leningrad realized that survival itself had become an act of resistance. What began as distant artillery fire soon turned into a silent, suffocating encirclement as roads vanished, railways fell quiet, and the world beyond the city disappeared almost overnight, leaving millions trapped inside a tightening ring with no clear escape and no certainty that help would ever arrive. Inside the city lived people like Anna Volkov, a schoolteacher who suddenly found her classroom empty and her chalk replaced by ration cards. Sergei Ivanov, a factory worker turned night watchman, guarding machinery that no longer produced tanks, but hope. And Pavel, a teenage messenger who memorized bombed streets and frozen canals, carrying notes and supplies across ruins because radios failed and phones went dead, while the siege closed in with methodical precision, cutting off food supplies, fuel, and electricity, transforming one of Europe's grandest cities into a test of human endurance. The German strategy was not immediate conquest, but isolation, a calculated plan to starve the city into collapse. And within weeks, bread became the most precious substance in Leningrad, rationed down to thin slices mixed with sawdust and fillers, while factories continued to operate under bombardment, not because efficiency demanded it, but because stopping would mean surrendering purpose. Anna watched her neighbors weaken day by day, yet still line up in silence for rations, their faces hollow but dignified, as Sergei stood guard at night, listening to distant shelling and the unsettling quiet that followed, knowing that every morning fewer people would rise from their beds. Winter arrived early and brutally, freezing water pipes, halting transport, and turning streets into icy corridors where bodies sometimes lay untouched for days because no strength remained to bury them. And yet, life continued in fragments, as musicians rehearsed quietly in unheated halls, librarians guarded books as fiercely as food stores, and engineers searched for solutions that defied logic. Pavel became one of thousands who crossed the frozen surface of Lake Ladoga, later known as the Road of Life, navigating darkness and enemy fire to bring in minimal supplies and evacuate children, memorizing the sound of cracking ice and the weight limits of trucks, learning to move without hesitation because hesitation meant death. Inside the city, Anna turned her apartment into a shared shelter, teaching children lessons to distract them from hunger, while Sergei helped dismantle non-essential buildings to use wood for heating. Each plank burned a reminder of what the city had sacrificed to endure. The siege was not constant explosions, but a grinding erosion of humanity, where starvation claimed more lives than bombs, and decisions became moral tests, whether to eat today or save for tomorrow, whether to share or survive alone, whether to continue working when strength failed. Factories adapted, producing weapons with skeletal crews, while scientists at the Vavilov Institute famously guarded seed collections without consuming them, preserving knowledge for a future they might never see. And Pavel witnessed this quiet heroism daily, delivering notes between research centers and command posts, understanding even at his young age that survival was not just physical but cultural. As months turned into years, the city developed a rhythm of endurance, with blackout routines, ration schedules, and burial brigades moving through snow-covered streets, and still, people refused to abandon their identity, staging small performances, writing diaries, and recording the siege in detail as Anna did nightly, fearing not death but oblivion, believing that if the story survived, then Leningrad had not truly fallen. Sergei saw comrades collapse at their posts, yet refused to leave, knowing that guarding an empty factory was symbolic but essential, a declaration that the city remained alive. While Pavel aged rapidly, losing childhood to responsibility, navigating artillery patterns, and memorizing safe routes through ruins, becoming part of an informal network of messengers that replaced broken infrastructure. The psychological toll was immense, with silence becoming heavier than noise and hunger distorting time itself, days blurring together as survival narrowed to basic functions. Yet moments of humanity pierced through. As neighbors shared news, strangers helped lift the fallen, and artists sketched scenes of daily life amid devastation, creating records that would later testify to resilience rather than despair. By 1943, small breakthroughs allowed limited supplies to enter, and hope flickered cautiously, though losses were already staggering, with hundreds of thousands dead from starvation alone. And still the city held, its people refusing evacuation, not out of ignorance, but defiance, believing that leaving meant surrendering the soul of Leningrad. When the siege finally lifted in January 1944, there was no immediate celebration, only exhaustion and disbelief, as survivors stepped into streets transformed by absence, familiar faces gone, buildings hollow, and memories etched into every corner. Anna survived, her diary preserved as one countless silent testimony. Sergei emerged weakened but unbroken, returning to rebuild rather than rest. And Pavel, now a young man, realized that the siege had shaped him forever, teaching lessons no classroom could. The siege of Leningrad stands not as a story of generals or grand strategies, but as a prolonged confrontation between human resilience and systematic destruction, where survival itself became resistance, and where ordinary people, through endurance, cooperation, and quiet courage, defied a plan designed to erase them. It remains one of history's most severe tests of civilian endurance, a narrative that transcends borders and eras, reminding modern audiences that war is not only fought on battlefields, but lived daily in kitchens without food, streets without warmth, and hearts that refuse to surrender hope, proving that history's most powerful moments often unfold not in moments of victory, but in the long, silent struggle to endure.